when people ask me my path and how I made it to where I am now, it's all kind of been connections and luck and being in the right place at the right time. And I do think that this is a specific field that a lot of people really want to find a way into. It's very hard to get into. And when they ask, how'd you do it? I say, I don't know, Craigslist and luck.
Welcome to this week's As Unexpected podcast, when we talk to C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists about how they lead into the future when the future generally goes as unexpected. I'm Scott Marshall, your host, and my own professional experience has made me a believer that it's not how you show up when all goes as planned, but it is how you show up when things go as unplanned. Given all of their experiences, each of our guests has become very attuned to the fact that the future is not to be predicted. My hope is that this podcast can help all of you become better leaders by building the core leadership capabilities for leading in an uncertain world. Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of As Unexpected. I have a guest today who's going to teach me so much about what I'm doing wrong, mostly about podcasts, but really share her own leadership journey in this multimedia world that we live in today. And all the things that have gone expected and as unexpected for her, which I'm sure she has a lot of great stories to tell. Hannah Crichton, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
If you don't mind, can you please start off and tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your background and how you got into your current position and what that current position is?
Yeah. Well, I have worked in entertainment and production for, 12 years now. How old am I? 12 years straight out of college. I moved to Los Angeles and jumped right in. And I actually wildly got my first job off of Craigslist. Wait, I have to pause and say thank you for having me. I forgot, Scott. I'm not a veteran in podcasting. Thank you for having me. Wow, Hannah, your manners. I got my first job off Craigslist because the guy liked my resume that said I had done semester at sea with Desmond Tutu, who was on the whole voyage. And that's what got me my first job. So shout out the semester at sea. And I became his assistant. And then I just randomly met, it's not random. I'm a great person. I know that. But when people ask me my path and how I made it to where I am now, it's all kind of been connections and luck and being in the right place at the right time. And I do think that this is a specific field that a lot of people really want to find a way into. It's very hard to get into. And when they ask, how'd you do it? I say, I don't know, Craigslist and luck. You just kind of figure it out and you meet people. So I worked my way up. I was the head of a comedy theater. I worked for the biggest comedy festival in the world in Montreal for 4 years. I was the late night stand-up comedy booker at Jimmy Kimmel's show. And then I worked on a bunch of random stuff, Comedy Central's Drunk History, a bunch of fun shows. And then I navigated my way into podcasting 7 years ago. Now I am the head of production, the executive director of production at Exactly Right Media. We are predominantly a podcast company, but working our way into television right now as well. Our big show is called My Favorite Murder, which is a big true crime show, top 10 on the charts, Apple Podcasts. Very exciting.
Right on.
Yeah. And I live in LA with my husband and my 15-week-old baby. So forgive my brain for not working the way it should. And here we are.
And there is quite a difference between a 15-month-old and a 15. Yeah.
I'm in the thick of it.
15-week-old. Yeah,
yes.
For sure. Well, congratulations, first of all, on that addition to your family, to you and your husband.
Thanks.
That's awesome. And that is quite a background. There's a lot to explore there. I'm guessing amidst all the connections and good luck, there was also a lot of hard work.
Definitely a lot of hard work. I can try to not be humble for a second. Yeah, a lot of hard work. And, this profession is very reputation based and people oriented. And it's a lot of remembering who people are or going out of your way to get what you want, kind of to build your way up. And I also feel I've had a lot of women who have helped me, who have seen something in me. And, it's an interesting world to be in as a woman. It's a historically male-based job in entertainment. And so there's a lot of groups of people trying to help each other climb the ladder as we go, sort of.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see that that is changing in your industry as well as other industries, but particularly in yours, so that the stories really bring the breadth of humanity as they need to. So I'm really pleased to see the opportunity that you've been given.
Yeah.
And as you know, the title is pretty self-explanatory. I really urge our guests to tell stories within their career, their professional life, where things went as unexpected. And my fundamental philosophy around being a leader is, first of all, it's not positional. It's really presence. And second, it's not so much about how we deal with things that go as we'd hoped, as we planned, as we expected, but really how we show up when things go different than we wanted, different than we expected, and different when we planned, how we show up for ourselves and others. And our guests share their stories, and the more authentic, the better. So I think given where you're at in your career, given how you got there, I think you really can bring some terrific narrative and reflection to our audience. So I know you're prepared.
Pressure's on.
Yeah. I know you're prepared. Let's start off. Please share something about, how things went on as unexpected and how you showed up.
Well, I think the entire nature of production, working in production, it's just completely everything is unexpected. Nothing goes as planned. And I am the most OCD planned person possible. I love a spreadsheet. Nothing brings me more joy than a color coordinated, planned out production schedule, a day timeline, and it never goes according to plan. I think to take a step back, there's no such thing as a podcast emergency. Someone told me that one time. Like, I do not work in entertainment and television. We're not dealing with global affairs. We're dealing on a small, micro level a lot of the time. So when things go wrong, it's not life or death. And I try to remember that. And I try to remind my team that we stay cool, calm, collected. We'll figure it out. There's always a solution. Unfortunately, sometimes the solution comes at midnight, the night before something's due. And production, you work a lot of weird hours, and that's just the name of the game. That's going to be the case because you got to get the product out, and it comes out at 3:01 in the morning, and everyone knows it's downloadable or whatever it may be that we're putting out. So things never go according to plan, and you just have to go with the flow in production. You can always be prepared and ready to go. I think a lot of my examples are small, but like working on a TV show, I worked on a live show where celebrity came and told a story, and that story related to a song, and then they sang that song, and it was called The Comedy Jam, and it was on Comedy Central. Nobody saw it. It's okay. But it was a fun show. The day of shooting, we had all these celebrities come, Kenny Loggins, DMX, all these musicians were there, all these comedians. The day of the show, somebody was tragically so sick and could not tell their story. And we had the band there, we had it all, and we didn't have backups prepared. And they had to tell a 5-minute story, they had to sing a song. So quickly, we had to, get on our feet and say, who are the comedians that could quickly figure this out, who could sing a song okay with zero preparation, and we quickly reached out to our contacts and we got someone in. Sure, they weren't as famous as the initial guest we had, but we had a show, we had an audience. We were only shooting for 2 days. It was the second day of shooting, right? So, and without it, you don't have the content. You don't have the full TV show. We have 6 episodes and it has to have 3 people in it an episode. That's the contract. And so we figured it out. So again, like I said about entertainment, it's all connections. It's who can you reach out to? Who could I call quickly? Knowing who people are and getting in there and maintaining those connections is a huge part of my job. And so, we got the guest, the show came out, I did my job. The contract was signed. We were good to go. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of thinking on your feet and not stressing out. I think I have a lot of shame I could work through from when I was in my younger 20s of how I handled unexpected situations, because I think I did flounder rather than understanding, we'll figure it out. It is okay to fail. We're not going to fail, and giving myself the pep talk I needed. And I do think in this career, you kind of have to have faith in yourself. You really do have to believe that, I can do it and I'll figure it out. And sometimes you don't. There are examples of I've tried really hard and we've just ended up with kind of a not as good product. Well, that's okay. I still have jobs. I'm still here. And I think everyone who's been in my position has had that experience. But it's that fast, Nate. It's that, quick moving, figure it out in the moment, and then reflect later and think, how could I do that better next time? Because there always will be a next time in production.
3 words come to mind from what you shared, and they just by chance, I'll start with a P, but I don't know why that happened. One is you talked about perspective. Mm-hmm. That, hey, what is my job? What are we doing? What impact does it have? What are the consequences if it doesn't work? And just being sure we have some perspective on the work, right?
Yeah.
So the second thing is you always do have a plan. There always is a plan. Like planning is important.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, the word pivot came to mind but you always got to be able to pivot. And sometimes, as your example illustrates, you got to pivot quickly.
Definitely.
And, there's that decision-making framework that's fairly oversimplistic, but it's urgency and impact. And, sort of something that's low urgency and low impact, you put off, and something that's really urgent and high impact, that's what we do now.
Totally.
Yeah. So perspective, plan, pivots, all that. And you also talked about, you clearly are able to self-reflect. Like you talked about your 20s and, maybe I wasn't as good at this and now I'm better. And some people don't get better, those who are really reflective. So can you share some of how you honestly reflect on yourself now and your own learning cycles, your own approach to learning and growing?
I think one of the biggest things I've learned is to ask for feedback, and to admit when I don't know something. And it's okay to not know. I work in a career where, as a producer, I hire people who are experts in their field and in what they do. And even if I'm their boss, it's okay that they know more than I do. I'm in my position because I'm a good communicator and delegator, and I can, keep things in line and make the train move. But that doesn't mean I'm good at all the other things. And so when it comes to reflection, I've had to think a lot about how am I communicating? Is it effective? Is it, especially I don't want to just harp on the fact that I'm a woman, but I want to come across as like a strong leader without getting sort of like, well, she's being mean or whatever people think about women in charge sometimes. I think I've had to kind of work through, and maybe that's just me, but I had to work through like how I'm coming across, and it's okay to appear in charge and it's okay to be strong, and sometimes, I don't know if strict is the right word, but like blunt. Like sometimes you just got to get the job done, and I am transparent and I need you to do this or whatever it may be. So in my reflection, definitely asking people who I've worked with for feedback, like, did you find that effective? Is there something I could have done differently? And I've been okay asking those questions. I think it took me a little while to realize asking those questions doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. It means I'm trying to grow. I would hope that anyone at any age is trying to grow and learn still. So yeah, it's okay to be in charge and appear in charge without knowing all the answers. And
yep.
Yeah.
That's a great way to say it. It's I will take on my leadership role with an understanding that I don't know it all and I need others with me. Absolutely. I oftentimes, for myself, I have my own sense of undying curiosity, which means I'm always willing to have something change what I think to be true. If, because we all come with our thoughts of how the world works and how people work.
Yeah.
But if we stay curious, we have to be willing to have that change.
Definitely.
And I think that in the world today, maybe some of that's missing, just an acceptance. That's that humility and grace and listening to others. The other part that you're really talking about is that courage, willing to make decisions when you don't know the outcome, the uncertainty, and that's being in charge. That's making decisions in the face of uncertainty.
Totally.
That's awesome. So in your current work, how many people do you have on your team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're a small company. We're 40 people, but I manage 20 of them. And I think it's a very diverse team of producers, engineers. I have researchers. I have a talent booker. We have all of the hosts we work with. We take pitches. So we make pilots and things like that. And I'm managing people, like I said, who I don't know how to do their job. I'm managing a lot of people who are older than me, which is something I had to work through as well, of like, it's okay that I'm here and they're there and we're all just a team. And this is we all have our paths and got where we are. As if I don't know if you can tell, but I do have some insecurities about being a leader, and I've had to work through it. I've hired all these people to be on my team, and they know that I am their leader, but it's still, sometimes I'm like, I'm the leader. I'm okay to be the leader. The way I also feel about being a new mom, I'm like, this is my child. What? Like, I think I catch myself a lot, and I think that's okay. I think those who don't, and I admit it. I think sometimes I say to people like, sorry, this is hard for me. And showing those insecurities, I think, is okay in a leader, because it doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. It just shows I'm a human, and we're all growing and working together, and we can have empathy in both directions.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program for college students and adults on career breaks, sabbaticals, or retired, interested in learning and exploring the world together. Learn more about the Lifelong Learner program at www.semesteratSea.org.
And ultimately, if I want my team, sorry, I'm going off track here, but I want my team to fail while they learn, because that's how you learn. And if they fail, it does reflect on me in the sense of like, I'm the one who will get in trouble. But I want them to have the experience of growth. And so, it's a working relationship for both of us. We want to grow together. We want to learn how to fail and then succeed together and have the space to do that. And so, in my current role, it's a lot of moving parts. It's also the nature of production is people come and go a lot. People get new jobs. And so we have to be really flexible with quick hires and training. And so it's constantly adapting, and projects come and go and take people with them. And it's not personal, it's business, also learning that side of it, of that show business is half business, baby. And that's just the nature of it. So that was
at least.
Yeah, more. I always tell people who want to be actors, I'm like, the business side is 90%. Learn the business and then have the talent or whatever, or the luck.
So first of all, let me just, we're not going to talk about our ages, but I'm sure that there's at least a couple decades in between us.
I'm 34. I don't mind saying.
Okay. Well, I will turn 58 soon. So I was right. There's decades between us. And I can tell you, decades ago, I was not nearly as open and honest and self-reflective as a leader as you are at your current age. So kudos on you.
Thanks.
And I also would say, obviously, again, I've been in the workforce a longer time, and I have a pretty significant role right now at a small organization, but with a global footprint. And I still have to face those insecurities. I still, people ask me, what keeps you up at night? And I say, well, nothing, because I sleep really well. And that's true. But when I show up, I know I've got to work hard every minute. I've got to contribute to this organization every day. I've got to drive us forward. And so I just want you to understand, I'm a male, I'm older. If a male who's older doesn't also face those insecurities, they're not being honest.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Yeah.
So good on you. You're far beyond what I was at your age. Love it. I'm going to pivot us just a little bit, because Kuki and Cam, I think, have a really interesting question. And as you and I discussed before we started, I think you'll have a closer connection to this just because of the age difference. You've been in your career for 12 years. I've been in it for over 30 years. So you have this ability to really understand what it was like for you still to enter the workforce. Mm-hmm. And now you're managing people who are entering the workforce. Mm-hmm. So let's listen to Cookie and Cam, and I'd love your thoughts on it.
What qualities do you think younger generations want in leaders in the workplace?
I think an important quality that younger generations want in a leader in the workplace would probably be something along the lines of empathy. I think in the past, there's been a larger disconnect between lower level employees and higher level employees. And at a lot of companies, that gap is kind of closing. So I think having an understanding of the people that are working for you and having empathy for them is something that's really important for our generation specifically.
Absolutely.
Okay, Hannah. Mm-hmm. There they are. What do you think of what the question they pose?
Okay, so what qualities do I think younger generations want in leaders in the workplace? Well, I think understanding the new normal. Like when I was in college, the only social media I had was Facebook. Like now there's such transparency and accessibility and people can just share information. There's honesty about what are people paid. There's just more conversations. Like there's way less secrets than there used to be. And I think understanding that new normal as a leader is important because I get kind of annoyed. Some people call like this generation entering the workforce kind of lazy, or they don't want to work, or there's all these things that are said about this generation where I think what they're asking for is reasonable, which is a work-life balance. They see what's out there. They want to see the world. They want to experience things, and work is not everything. People are people. To be a leader here, I have to care about the people that I manage, and I want them to have nice lives here and outside of here. I want them to have vacation. Like we all loved to travel in college if we could, or do a semester at sea or study abroad. And like, how do you maintain that when you're a mom and you're working? And I still want to see the world. Like I would like to take some time off. I think time off is really important. This is how you keep good people. Like I listened to your episode with Liz, about working from home and how I love being in an office. I'm happy being in an office. I also think remote working is great. I think people have the flexibility to live their normal lives and to have work be a part of it and not be everything. Yeah. And I think about my dad on Fridays, got really excited about casual Fridays. And I understand some jobs, yes, a suit and tie is necessary. I get it. But like, that was what he looked forward to wearing jeans to his office on a Friday. And it's like, oh, honey, I wear jeans every day. Like I'm a jeans gal in this office. Yeah. And different places, different outfits, I understand. But work culture matters, and treating people as human beings matters. And I think new leaders who see that and are kind of a part of it. I'm on Instagram, like I also want that for myself. And so younger generations just want flexibility and transparency. And that's how you sustain them for a long term. If you want to, hold on to good talent, and giving people the benefit of the doubt. I think like we all have things that come up. If you're told you have 10 vacation days and 3 sick days, like, you want me to come into the office on day 4 with a fever or with COVID? We've lived through a pandemic. That's just not the reality. I don't want anyone here getting COVID. Stay home. Yeah, we have computers. We have internet. We can do, we're very lucky where we are now that we have the opportunity to work from home. At least those who have jobs where that's the case. So, and I should state, I feel like I've only ever had jobs, like I'm college educated. So I'm really talking about the jobs that I've had are a certain trajectory I've been on. So I can't speak for probably the majority of America, but for where I'm at and for the workplaces I've been in, I think but I think it's global. I think this works for everywhere, work-life balance, treating people as humans, empathy. They talked about empathy in this question. Like, yeah, I fully agree, I think. And if you don't do that, I think you'll see turnover, and I think you'll see people. You're not going to uplift people. You want people to work in your industry or stay. Like you're just going to make them leave. You're not going to help people move along. And I mean, as a leader, don't you want to look back and think how great it is that you feel like you helped people? If you don't want that, sorry, what are you doing? So yeah.
And I would suggest that that's not leadership. That's authority. There's a difference. Like, again, I really think leadership isn't positional. We all have a capacity to live into it. And compassion for me is a key piece of that leadership, really understanding the other. What is their context? What are their motivations? What's their life situation? And if we start there, I think we can live into our leadership capacity that much better. I love what you're saying. Someone gave me a reframe of work-life balance many, many years ago, and I really tried to reflect that in my own life the best I can. They talked about work-life integration. So here you are, you and your husband have still basically a newborn in your house.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you get to go on maternity leave here soon. That's really important that that's provided. And as you come back to work, you'll figure out how to integrate those parts of your life rather than balance them, because balance to me always feels like we're never in balance.
Totally.
We're always out of balance. But how do we integrate them? So for me, as an example, I wake up quite early. I go to the gym early. I answer email early. And then my family wakes up and I get to spend time in the morning with them. And then one's off to school, one's off to work, I'm off to work. And so how do we integrate it rather than try to balance this thing. And to your point, I think this younger generation is teaching us lessons that we should respect. How do we really live into what they're striving for? They want to get ahead. They want good jobs. They want to, pay for groceries and pay for rent.
Yeah.
And they want to have time with their friends and their family and see the world, right? And I think you're spot on. I think Cookie and Cam are spot on that they need people to understand them and care for them.
I also think like at a bigger organization, a leader with leadership, or as you're saying, authority, comes money. And it really is, it is tough out there. It is hard for me. It is hard for everyone. Having a child living in Los Angeles, I'm like, what am I going to do? So, and I'm a leader and I make good money, and it's still going to be really a challenge. And, especially to give you want to give your child everything, So I do think as a leader, that empathy of just like where people are is hard no matter what position you're in, or figuring out even the guilt of, oh, I'm at work and my kid's at home, and trying to figure out that working through that emotional new phase that I'm in of like, yeah. And so, integration, that's a really nice way to say it. You and I are the same: up early, go to the gym, answer emails, then everybody's up. You and me, Scott, text me at 5 a.m. sometime.
You're Pacific, I'm Mountain. So
perfect.
I won't text you at 5 a.m. Mountain.
I'll be asleep. Hopefully. If
I can text you after I get done with the gym, closer
perfect.
to 6. Yeah.
Okay. Love that.
Hannah, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Those are really honest reflections. To me, I'll never be in your business, but if I was, I would work for you. You sound like a terrific leader. You're very honest and open. Any last words for our audience before we close this?
I would say, and I already have said it, but I think my main thing that I've learned is it's okay to fail. That's really, without trying, you only fail because you tried. And trying is a gift and a risk, and you should be proud of yourselves for trying. And I think, life's hard enough. Like, be nice, be nice to yourself, like give it a go. And if it doesn't work, figure it out, try it again. Like, it's okay. And I hope that, leaders let that happen for those who are giving it their all in different ways.
You've got a quote that's going to live for centuries now. You only failed because you tried. It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
Quote me, baby.
We're putting that in the history books.
Huge.
You only failed because you tried. Thank you so much. That's a perfect ending. Hannah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program where students visit 10 countries on 3 continents, all while taking 3 to 4 college classes through Colorado State University. See course offerings and upcoming voyage itineraries at www.semesteratsea.org. Thank you for joining this week's episode of the As Unexpected podcast. The viewpoints and opinions of featured guests do not necessarily represent those of the Institute for Shipboard Education or Semester at Sea. Hit the like button, share it with your colleagues, family, and friends, and remember, be curious, be compassionate, be courageous. That's what it takes to lead as unexpected.